This is Between Hooksets. I'm Jason Walter from In Through the Outdoors with my partner in slime, Kurt Underhill from the fishing crew.
What we got? Fingers?
Well, I was going to point to you, but you're over here for me.
Waiting. Are you going to be jazz handsing it next week?
That's really so. Look at that. Well, that just doesn't even work. Partner in slime, Kurt Underhill. Great. Go. Ooh.
You got to mirror your camera, bud. Mine's right.
Yeah, when I mirror it, it just looks weird to me.
Yeah, it looks a little strange, but yeah.
You know, I mean, just super odd. I see Donald Trump banned forward-facing sonar, so we're all out.
Executive order, I saw that, yeah.
Whatever. That was funny. That was terribly funny. There's some funny stuff out there right now, no doubt. Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy. We had a comment before we started the show. I was pretty pumped.
Yeah. We had a guy waiting for the show to come on. Uncle Lou, good evening.
Yeah, how do you do?
Before we get into tonight's guest, let's follow up with last week. House Bill 1215 came up. There was they heard it on Tuesday morning. We kind of talked like we heard it was dead. It did come up on Tuesday morning. You can go on to SD Legislator. You can click on the bill, listen to the proponent testimony on it. Quite interesting. Really, I'll give you a brief synopsis. It all comes down to snow bears in the Northeast South Dakota.
That really is what it's all. It's the snow bear bill.
It's a snow bear issue. I know we talked afterwards, me and you, Jason, and it was like they are talking about, Legislator DeGroat is going to take the list of guides he has to revenue to make sure everybody has a tax license and is paying their sales tax, which I don't think that's a problem. I think they're making that problem up.
Could be. I don't know. I have no clue.
And if you don't have one, you deserve to get busted.
Yes.
You deserve to find whatever's coming.
Right. We all have to pay, so you do too. Period.
Yeah. Sorry. But I mean, it's all coming to, like I said, it all comes down to the snow bear issue. That was the main gist of everything, was the amount of snow bears on the lake. But what I would have loved to have been in the room and helped to testify, but they gave 10 minutes of testify time. And then, so how it works is the prime sponsor says what he wants to say. Then the opponents come up and do their testimony. Then it goes to, or proponents come up. Then it goes to opponent. Then the prime gets his rebuttal. And basically his rebuttal was snow bears and snow bears and snow bears. And I would have loved to have been in there and said, hey, just because somebody owns a snow bear doesn't mean they're a guide. Because that's basically his impression of it. And he called them snowcats and he called them bobcats and wildcats. And he didn't even, I mean, you could tell he really.
He wasn't educated.
He wasn't educated on he was educated enough to bring for what he heard from the bill, but he wasn't a true blue outdoorsman that has fished in one and knows what one is. And I'm like, so whoever, the people that came to you basically said it's all these snow bears, but they also implied the impression that guides only own snow bears. That's how I took his rebuttal testimony. And needless to say, it did die. It got put to the 41st day, which means basically 99.99% that is a dead bill. So that one made 41st day. And then the road hunting bill that we didn't talk about.
Yeah, right. Where did that go today?
SB 1230 or House Bill 1236 passed committee. It did pass the House floor today, which means now it goes to the Senate side for the same workover.
And so that's going from 660 feet to a quarter of a mile.
A quarter of a mile for safe shooting.
Over 1,000. I guess I can't do the math on it.
Double. It's an eighth mile now.
1,300.
1,320 feet or something. Yeah. So
that makes perfect sense. I get you now. So
get you caught up
out there coming in the future.
And we got a great guest tonight, a longtime friend. I've known this guy for quite some time, and I've been fortunate enough to see him through his whole process of this, and I'm pretty proud of where he's gotten to. And I'm excited to have Josh on tonight and talk custom rods. How we doing, Mr. Bible?
Pretty good, gentlemen. How we doing?
Hey, Josh, how you doing? Good to see you there. You know, it's been a long time coming. I think we brought you up before, and you're like, yeah, no, I'm not. No, don't like the camera. I get it. I don't either. I mean, seriously, if I could do the show like this, fantastic. I'm good to go. But
yeah, Josh, when I brought this up to Jason about this show, he goes, I'm a radio guy. No. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. And I think it's worked out. I hope everybody's enjoying. We seem to have a pretty decent following every week. So I hope everybody's enjoying the show and likes our topics that we bring up. And we try to stay relevant. I was explaining to somebody earlier today that, you know, we would love to schedule guest weeks out, but our point of the show is to stay relevant. And if a state record possibly gets caught or something like that, we want to be the first guys to get them on. So we don't want to schedule guests months out.
Yeah. Oh, but really, let me just do this real quick because we actually did it.
We did it.
Dan McGuire's going to join us on March 5th. And the cool thing there, he's going to be super relevant because he is going to be one of the speakers at the Northwestern Outdoorsman show in Minneapolis with Jason Mitchell. So kind of a big deal there. He reached out to us and happy to have him on. But back to Mr. Bible and JB Designs, the custom rods thing. I'm excited. I'm excited to see the room that you got behind you. That is your laboratory, right?
This is it.
There we go. All right, Dr. Bible's in the house. Look at that.
And that's just a fraction of them, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's just a fraction, probably half of them.
So before we dive into the rod building, let's get a little bit about Josh, where you came from and how'd you get into the rod building game?
Kind of, you kind of know my story, Kurt, but back in 2018, I had the idea of getting some rods built in memory of my stepson Hunter and his grandfather, Bob Prop Sr. And sorry, still a little choked up about it, but
it's all right.
So we did that the first year. I got some rods and we gave them away at a tournament. And I thought to myself, next year I want to do something a little more personable. So that year I got a rod building kit and started building them, and that's really how it all came about, And ever since then, every year we built a set of custom rods in memory of Hunter and Senior, and now we're starting to give them away at the Governor's Cup, kind of bringing it home.
Yeah, I mean, when you called me was it a year ago or whatever, said, hey, we'd like to transition these into giving them away at the Gov Cup, and such an honor. I mean, I knew Hunter. I really knew Senior. I spent a lot of time with Senior, so it was a great feeling to have the honor to be able to present those. And we present those rods. There's nothing. It's just two random people at the rules meeting end up with these rods.
Yeah.
And over the years, you've got this. You've built us, custom rods for different fishing for Gov Cup. You built Retrieving Freedom rods. You've done all these different things for us. There's the Senior rods. So go back to that picture a little bit. Explain the story behind the colors, why, all them different things.
So Hunter had a very rare disease, and I'm not sure the proper way to say it, but the color for that disease was purple. And so purple has always been a very favorite color of the family. Senior, of course, everybody knows, Nebraska. That was home to him, and so we always kind of go with the red for the Cornhuskers. I know, but that's really kind of the background on the colors there.
And not trying to get too emotional tonight, but your logo design is purple in honor of Hunter. Like, you've carried the purple into your logo. So if you see the JB Designs, it's always a purple logo. And that was all. I mean, I don't think you were a purple fan. Like, purple wouldn't have been a color you picked until this was the reason for it. So there's meaning behind it.
Correct. Yes.
So, but you get into building these rods, and like I said, we've done Gov Cup rods, we've done Retrieving Freedom rods, we've done Delta Waterfall rods. I mean, I called you when you first started doing this, and you were bringing me and Willie some rods. Like, here, look, this is what I'm doing. And I mean, I'll say it out right now. It's not. If you want to build a rod, the kit is really not that expensive, right? I mean, you can order one offline, you can get the stuff, build your own rods. It really comes down to the true art. And I'm sure you learned this well over your time. Correct me if I'm wrong, that there's a lot more to than just buying a blank and slapping guides on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you kind of said it, I feel like it's more of an art. Once you get into it, the color combinations, it's not just what components you put on it. It's how do you make it look sharp. And that's where a lot of the art comes into play. So, don't tell my wife this, but I really rely on her a lot with color combinations and behind closed doors. She really helps me out. And so I got to give her a lot of credit in this because she really helps me out in making sure these things look sharp.
I mean,
and they do.
They pop. I mean, the first rod, I'm like black and green, got to go fishing crew colors. I wish I'd have patented that so you couldn't do any other black and green rods because they pop and I love them. And now the rods just popped up are for my good friends down in Platte, the Boyden boys, and they got all custom rods to go to Winnipeg with. And Butters loves green just like I do. And I'm like, you can't have my color, dude. That's my color. Like, but
here's the other thing: orange and black, my color.
And in return, my wife stole the purple. So, I mean, honestly, my wedding present to my wife was a custom built Josh Bible rod, a nice rod. I went to him and said, I want something because literally it's our thing is ice fishing and our whole life is fishing, obviously, because of the tournament series. And I wanted something that nobody else can get. And I gave her a rod, and Josh Bible put our wedding date on it and everything like that. So she has a custom rod. I know if it ever breaks, I mean, that might be the end of it. So I know if she breaks it, there's.
Isn't your anniversary 22?
22. Yep. So
remember
3 days away, man. Third wedding anniversary. But yeah, so I mean, basically, if you can dream it, Josh can build it. I think you've done some crazy rods in the realm of things. And I was talking to Chasen earlier today, and I said, I get it a lot, like what rod do I need? And I'm sure you get it 100 times more than we do, but how does one go about starting to build a custom rod? I call you and say, I want a rod to do this and make it these colors. And I let you run with it.
Yeah. So, I mean, most of the guys that call, are pretty serious fishermen, just not a lot of average Joes that just want something custom because, you're paying a lot of money for it. So, a lot of it falls back to is I visit a lot with the customer and see exactly what type of fishing they like. Length is a very important thing. A lot of old school guys, want 6 footers, 6'3". Some of the younger guys more into the 6'10" to 7'2". So there's a lot that's really personal preference. And so it's when I visit with a customer, it's not just, build me a custom rod. It's getting in touch with what they really want, And so once we kind of get that figured out, I pretty much just, have the customer give me a length, a reel seat style, and then, kind of a color. And then I let them know, just you give me kind of a basic color and I'll take it from there. There's way too many combinations, and I kind of learned through the years just to let me handle it. And to date, knock on wood, but I haven't had no complaints or no returns because somebody didn't like something. So, I mean, that's kind of the process in a nutshell. And then also price, what do you want to spend, because as we know nowadays with the inflation and everything, nothing's cheap, and you can go, from wild to wild real quick. So, but yeah, kind of it in a nutshell.
Well, and I was a opponent. Like, I think, the first rod I ever had you build for me was a 4-foot ice rod, and you're like, what? I said, I want a 4-footer. Do not, like, that's what I want. And you kind of like, all right, whatever, I'll build it for you. And I love it. I love it for jigging outside. I mean, if I'm hole hopping, that's kind of my go-to rod, is that 4-footer. And people laugh at me with them, but once you fish one, they're so much fun to fish that 4-foot long rod through the ice. But then I had you build me a wrapping rod, and I tell people all the time, you can go buy a rod, you can get a rod to wrap with, but there's something about putting that custom rod in your hand when you're jig wrapping. It doesn't wear you out. The handle tucks into the handle tucks down. I looked at hundreds of them, and I'm a guy, I was explaining to a guy earlier today, I'm not a guy that orders stuff off of Amazon. I like to touch and feel before I get it. So going into the custom rod world, I trusted you enough, and because we're friends and all these things, I mean, even though, it's not something I can touch. Like, I put all my trust in you, and then people got it, like, people that are ordering these rods put all their trust in you. But so people out there, I'm not just pumping Josh up because he's a buddy. You truly care. Like, you truly want to make somebody's experience with that rod be the best they can have. So if somebody is unhappy, it's not going to make you, you're not going to get offended to it. And I'm sure you built, I mean, I know you went down the lines with some of our fishermen that you built 5 rods for, and they don't like the it's not they don't like the rod. It's just not the perfect action they were looking for, and all the different experiences that go with a custom rod.
Yep. And I do have I kind of learned from that, and now that I've kind of grown, I do have a handful of rods where if it's a local customer, that kind of meet what you're talking about, go take them out and try them. And that's made life a lot easier, especially the local fishermen, you know what I mean? And really kind of help narrow things down and makes the process a lot easier.
But for somebody that's calling you and saying, Josh, I want a custom jig wrap rod, you have kind of your go-to standard rod. But if they're more of a, I don't want to put anybody down, but that next level, really finessey guy, you can kind of work with them and know what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you're talking jigging wrapping or wrapping rods, I mean, that really comes down to preference. I mean, because you got guys that are on the National Walleye Tour that want to fish a medium light, 6 to 10 medium light. That's really not rated for one, but that's what they like because of the action of it. And so I just, I make sure people understand that, these rods aren't built to be casting 1 ounce jigging wraps, but you can definitely fish them. You just gotta be careful with them. But yeah, there's a lot to wrapping, jigging wrapping rods and what you want. Some other guys may want like the longer ones, like for instance, we built a 7.6. I like a 7.6. I like them longer. Some guys like the 6.6, 6.8. So I mean, it's really, once again, it's really preference. But when they say trust, asking for my trust, once again, I got to pry every bit of information I can out of them to make sure that what I know about the rods, I will be able to give them what they're looking for.
And, Chasen can be vouched for this next comment. We were talking about this, like, there wasn't that many years ago, he was a Shakespeare with a Zepco guy.
Well, yeah, why would I need anything other than that? That's all I need. Just give me a 7-foot medium rod and I'm good. But that changes. It's amazing how your world changes. You begin to develop as a fisherman. You get better. You start getting a feel. You start feeling things. You can feel things at the end of the line, which I could never feel before. And one of the big surprises for me was the ice rod, that Kurt had in his garage on his birthday. He said, pick that Bible rod up. And I picked it up and I tugged on it, and the backbone on it was amazing. And I think it was an extra fast tip. I was impressed. I have been impressed by the JT custom rods, and I'm like, whatever, I really could care less. But Tom Seberg put one in my hands, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And I'm not going to poo-poo JT, because I tell everybody I fish with, and I let them try that panhandler that I have, because it's really good. But I grabbed your rod at Kurt's and went, yep, I'm going to have a couple of these, because they were unbelievable. They were super amazing. And even having that JT in my hand versus your JB rod, I kind of fell in love with your rod right there. So for a novice like me, you can tell the difference, and it's amazing.
Yeah, and that's like we were talking earlier, is he started there. I mean, and Jason's got hundreds of different rods that he's bought. I mean, I don't know how many times you bought a rod and you're like, this is it. And then you call me like, nope, that thing, nope, I don't like that thing.
Yes.
I
thought it was going to be perfect.
And it can be that way with a custom rod too. I don't want to like mislead anybody to think that if Josh builds you a custom rod, it's going to be the perfect rod for every application. That's where the custom thing really comes in, because a wrapping rod is different than a jig pitching rod. And so you can't just have that one all around rod. You can, go buy a Fenwick, go buy a St. Croix. They're great rods, but if you want to get more technique specific, that's when the custom world comes in.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it, when you say that, especially when it comes to jigging, right? Jigging for walleye in the spring or late fall. I mean, some of these rods I build are under 3 ounces, which your standard store-bought rod is going to be 4 to 6 ounces just in the rod. So I'm cutting that weight in half. And, a lot of the blanks that I use are extremely lightweight, extremely sensitive. And will they catch more fish? I feel like they will. I mean, you definitely can feel a difference. It's hard to put into words unless you actually try it. You know what I mean? I think I told you the story 100 times, Kurt, and I'm not sure if Chase and I told you, but years ago when we first started, we did a little Bob Props Jr., Mason Props, and Nick Harrington and I went out fishing, and we were trying out some of my new rods, and Nick was just adamant he was going to outfish us with his Fenwick, and for about 20 minutes, Junior, Mason, and I just kept catching fish, and I don't think Nick had one in the boat yet.
Well, that's Nick.
I said, quit cover, put that rod down. So he finally put the rod down, grabbed one of the other custom rods, and in his first cast, he caught one, and he said, I could feel it pick it up. So, that right there just, tells me, being able to choose your components, choose your blanks, really makes a difference. Now, I mean, but that goes for, all rods, right? I mean, you can get a G Loomis NRX that's going to be just as sensitive. But once again, in my opinion, if you're going to be willing to pay that kind of cash, $600, $650 for a rod, why not get a custom, whether it's from me or some other custom rod builder that you can actually customize and get the reel seat you want, get the guides you want, get the length you want, get the handle, whether you want cork or carbon fiber or, a custom EVA grip. I mean, that's where I feel it really pays off. Not only are you getting quality stuff, but you're getting it built to the way you want it.
Yeah, I mean, you can go buy an NRX and they're all like that teal color and they're all the same, or aqua color, and that's what they are, right? Yep. I can spend the same amount of money or more, because I'm sure, I know we can spend more on these things, and get the same quality of rod, but in my green or my orange or my red or whatever color I want, where you buy an NRX and that's what color it is.
Yeah. Yep. Or that's what reel seat is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
There's a lot of preference there, and and there's also, weight savings when it comes to reel seats. You know, you do different options, and we can shave an ounce off the weight just in that. So yeah, there's a lot to it.
Well, and then the reel seat, there's that lockdown. Sometimes those are placed in the wrong spot. You know, you're handling that thing, and all of a sudden your reel is just flopping around because it's misplaced. It's not in the right spot. I don't know why they would have even engineered a rod that would have something like that, where just normal use. I mean, if you're in I have a couple of Fenwicks that I have to just crank down tight because I believe they're in the back, and I'd rather have them in the front where I'm not touching them. Right. Yep. So it seems to help. You know, if you can pick what you want, that's my other thing. I like stuff that fits in my rod holder in my ice house or in a portable, instead of always catching on it, depending on the handle that's on the rod. I know that, and I don't even know what they're called. You know, where you've got the little rubber chunk, and then you've got the little chunk of rod, and then you've actually got the handle where, you know, the rod seat. So, you know, we were talking about that a couple of weekends ago. Why do you have that couple of inches there? Kind of like you do a casting rod that bass guys use. Is it to feel what's going on? You know, you put your pinky on that and you can feel what's going on and transferring from your bait all the way through to your pinky?
If you're talking about in between the reel seat, yeah, I mean, it's to get blank. What's the word I'm looking for?
Sensitivity.
Yeah, but just to get the feeling of the blank, right? You know, yeah. Like a lot of the vibration transfers through that. So,
and there's a lot of people that like those, right? They like that type of rod. It's become very popular.
Yeah. Yep. And you know, if you don't like it, Jason, I know a guy that can hook you up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right on. Yeah, no, yes. Well, okay, so how about eyelets? You know, let's get really technical and get into eyelets, because eyelets are not eyelets. They are not all made equal. They're not created equal.
No, they're not. You know, and you know, it's like anything else. You can get the cheapest of the cheap, and I see a lot of now that I build rods. You know, I notice stuff. You know, going in the Lindsay Coda Mart or whatever. I notice what's on a rod. You know, and a lot of just plain steel guides, and which are lightweight, but they're, you know, honestly don't hold up to mono. Mono actually cut grooves into stainless steel guides. People don't realize that. But then you get into the cheaper Fujis, very heavy, very bulky. You start getting in the higher end guides, you know, the Fuji SICs or the Fuji titaniums. I mean, you know, Torzites. Now you're talking top of the line weight savings, thinner ceramics, harder ceramics. So, I mean, yeah, not all guides are the same. You can go from a $20 set of guides all the way up to a $120 set of Torzite guides. So it's really kind of what you want to spend.
So we do have a question. Jeff wants to know, if we run a specific reel, will you balance the rod with that reel during the building process?
Yes, I can. Yes. I don't have a lot of requests for it because 99.9% of the time they are pretty balanced when I build them. But yeah, I mean, if somebody wants something specific, that's kind of the whole point of it, right? And yeah, we take a reel and make sure it's to their liking.
Well, if Jeff's asking that question, then he's got to be a doggone good fisherman, because that's the last thing I'm thinking about is balance. But talk about that balance a little bit.
So, like I said, it's, you know, for me, when I'm building rods, I kind of run, you know, a lot of times a 1,000 or 1,500 series reel on a lot of jigging rods. And, you know, that's like one of the smallest reels you can get.
Needs all the help he can get, therefore the balance. That's good. Yeah. Jeff, that's a good question. That was a great question. I'm just teasing you, but that was a very good question.
But yeah, you know, balance has a lot, you know, depends. Some guys, you know, want to run 3,000 series reels on a light jigging setup, and so that's a lot heavier reel. So it does make a difference. But like I said, 90% of the time, 99% of the time, everybody's running that 2,000. Holy cow!
I think this is like a 12,000.
That's what he uses ice fishing. Don't let him lie to you.
Yeah.
And he reels it upside down.
Yeah.
This
I
was
have a
meant,
friend that does that.
this was meant to work this way.
Yeah, we need to talk after this. But no, balance has a lot of importance in it. But like I said, I don't spend a lot of time trying to balance things out. I kind of have for whatever length of rod I'm building, I kind of know where that reel seat needs to sit to make sure that things are pretty balanced. So
yeah, proper placement. I just figured back in the Zebco days, you had the rubber handle at the end, and then there was the Zebco 33, right?
Oh yeah.
And then you get into the spinning rods, and now I'm like, well, some of them are, that rod is way forward, and you get that thing sticking out behind your armpit, and sometimes I'm happy with that, sometimes I'm not.
So one more thing about reel seats and reel placement. I mean, jigging wrap rods, right? I found if I know we're doing jigging wraps, I put that reel seat further forward. It's somewhat unbalanced, but you got more. It's easier on the forearms when you're working all day. You got less weight in the front, and then you got a little more leverage, with your forearm or however you're holding your rod. It also comes into play like with paddlefish snagging. I've only built a handful of rods for guys that want to paddlefish, but Willie Glow had me build the first one, and he specifically wanted that reel seat. I think it's damn near 2 feet. He fishes a 10-foot rod, but we're 2 feet from the end. Well, hold on, let me grab it.
Yeah, that's interesting. 2 feet, but then in a 10-foot rod. Okay, wow.
And the thing is, for people that don't paddle fish, you're snagging. So you want that long thing, because when you're ripping, you're going across your body. So you want to be able to tuck it in your other arm. And so when you're pulling across, you use your body. Does it wear you out and your ribs hurt? Yes, they do. I mean, you'll see guys that are snagging paddlefish with pool noodles zip tied or wearing life jackets to protect their ribs. And I'm in the process, Josh is in the process of building me a custom paddlefish rod, because you would think you're snagging. And me and Josh had this conversation last week. You think you need a broomstick, right? I mean, you need a lead pipe. All you're doing is ripping it. But there's something to be said if you do that with a lead pipe compared to having a nice stiff rod with action on the end. You're getting a little fun out of the deal.
Yeah, right.
You go buy the cheap Shakespeare or the ugly stick or whatever you want to buy, and it's not the same. Muskie rods, Willie, the first time I ever caught a paddlefish, I borrowed Willie's muskie rod. I caught 2 paddlefish, went down the next day. They were inside the slot in Gavin's Point. I couldn't keep them. Toss them back. Next day I'm out there, nothing in the water. I'm just snagging, and the rod blows up on me. Willie blew in half, 3 pieces. And I'm like, oh, crap. Like, I borrowed a rod and I just broke it. And Willie will tell you that the Josh rod is completely different fishing than that. And there's no finesse to catching that fish. You're just snagging it. There's no finesse. You don't need a sensitive tip to feel the bite, because once you snag into the thing, you got it.
There, it's hooked up.
But it's after it's hooked up.
So it's the working them, letting them play. I think that's what I've learned about a better rod, because when I was a beginner, when I was a Zebco guy, you're horsing them in, right? You're doing everything you can to get that fish in. And I have realized, and this fall taught me something huge. I went with a medium, light, fast tip when I was throwing my money badgers. Oop, I let the secret out. But here's the deal. After I hooked up, and I was always horsing them because I wanted them in. And I finally realized you got to play them out. If you play them out, you can drop that net down and they'll just glide right into the net. But if you're sitting there horsing them in and they're still fighting and you're trying to get them in the net, it doesn't work. But you've got to have a rod that works for you in that instance, right? I mean, you just can't go out there with a $19 Zebco combo. Well, you can, if you want to horse them in. But if you're working with a rod that is working with you and for you, and whether it's your mono or braid, and everything's working in concert, it got to the point where I wasn't afraid, like this fish isn't going to come off. It's hooked up. I'm just letting them run. I'm playing them out. And when they get tired, they kind of start to come up a little bit. You know it. You reel in, you scoop them up, and you're done. But I truly think that the whole key to it was a really good rod.
Yeah.
Not only
So
that,
go ahead.
With the paddle fishing, just one more thing about, is having a correct lure rating. You're whipping 6 and 8 ounce weights. Your Walmart special is not rated for that, and that's why you keep breaking rods, right? I mean, because it's not rated to cast that heavier weight. So specifically like with these, this is kind of where custom really comes into play. These rods are rated from 2 to 8 ounce weights, so they're built to handle what you're doing to them, and so that's really important.
We got our question. You like titanium over stainless steel, even though they are a bit softer guides?
So, just to clarify, most guides are stainless steel. That's just the inserts. So the inserts, the guides I'm referring to are the stainless steel with the stainless steel insert. They're the soft ones, but I guess lately, you have a little weight savings with titanium, but I really kind of quit pushing titanium. I'm pushing more of the Fuji SICs. So you got a extremely hard insert, a real reliable, durable insert with a good lightweight stainless steel frame. And, they're about half the cost of titanium. You got a little more weight, but it's not very noticeable. So yeah, I kind of been leaning towards those more. Kind of like I told a lot of my customers is, unless you really want to save 0.4 ounces, just go with the other guys. They're just as good. They're the same guide, just different material. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but that's my answer.
No, I think you did.
Answer for me.
So
how about the tip? Is the tip, is it a different guide? Is it, or
it's matching to whatever you're putting on for guides. I mean, you'll match your tip top to that particular set. Some companies I've noticed will actually run a better quality tip top with lower quality guides. And I think that's because, 90% of the time in stores, you'll see the ceramic of the tip top busted out, and that's why they're returning the rods. So I think people have learned just to go with a better quality tip top, because that's where it seems like over half your problems come from.
Makes sense.
So part of the reason, so you've grown in from building a set of rods or buying a set of custom rods to give away to building your own. Now you've moved into the production world. And we had a comment earlier. I'll bring it back up. You wanted to hear more about your bouncer rods and the hair jig rod. So you kind of came out. There's really nobody out there building a custom bottom bouncing rod. You came out. That's ice rods.
Oh, that's not okay. Sorry, because the bouncer rods have the same color, so I just assumed that these were going to be the long rods, but I guess I didn't even look at it close enough.
No, our promo cover photo is your bouncer rods.
Boom. Okay.
And so get into what you did here for what we're calling your production rods.
So are you asking how I started with it, or where I'm at with it,
or how you got to where you're at? Like where, you didn't just say, hey, this is what I'm doing. You go through the whole process. I mean, I fished 3 or 4 rods with you, and several people fished the rods to find out what you wanted.
There we go.
So it's been probably 2.5 years ago. I started thinking to myself, as much as I enjoy building custom rods, I want to produce something for individuals that not necessarily don't want a custom rod. They just don't want to spend the money on a custom rod. But, at the end of the day, they're still going to buy rods. So I thought to myself, well, maybe I should try to do my part and come up with like a production line of rods that everybody can afford. Because at the end of the day, you're still going to buy a rod, but now maybe they'll buy a rod for me. So that's kind of how that was the whole concept. That's how it all started. And then the thing about it was like, me and Mason and Junior were talking. There's really no production bottom bouncing rods. And
let me interrupt you there. If you're going to the store to buy a bottom bouncing rod, there is nothing in the store that says bottom bouncing rod on it.
No. And the flip side of this is people say, well, it's a bottom bouncing, right? You can just use any rod. Well, yeah, you can, but you can use any rod for jig wrapping. You can use any rod for jigging minnow. So there's that concept, or there's that deal out there where people feel like, well, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, if you want something nice and something that's specifically built for bottom bouncing, then we're offering that. And what I was gonna say, is JT Outdoors, great rods, right? They are very nice rods. They have their snare rod, which kind of is a live bait. It kind of doubles between a bottom bouncing and I believe 3-way, and I think some guys you can even pull cranks with them. So them, and then St. Croix has their line of bounce and troll rods that are out there. But yeah, I wanted to produce something that was a little more affordable than their lineup, but that was still technique specific. And so yeah, I don't know, I probably made 15 rods with various blanks that kind of met the criteria I was looking for. And I want to thank Bob Props Jr. for spending a lot of time on the water with these rods, with clients and guiding and just for fun. And he spent a lot of time out there testing these all out. And finally, the last rod I decided to try was the rod. So, I mean, couldn't have been the first one. It had to be the last one. But yeah, so we decided that, this was going to be the rod. And I went with a 7 foot 6 inch rod. We kind of like a longer rod, moderate fast action. So the fish can load the rod up without feeling it. But then you get into that backbone where it kind of sets its hook on its own. So, there's a lot to be said for that. I mean, there's a lot of times when I'm sure we're all fishing with the more limber rod, and you seem like you can catch more fish on it because the rod's doing the work for you. And so that's kind of why we went with what we went with. And I fished these side by side with other name brand rods, and those rods caught fish, but I feel like this rod caught more just because of the action of the rod and the rod's kind of doing the work for you.
Well, and Jason, you actually got to fish these rods this summer.
Yeah, right. I did. And we were fishing different though. We were fishing, weren't we fishing heavy bouncers, like super heavy bouncers?
Yeah, we were like 2.5, and that's kind of at the limit of this rod. These are really kind of up to 2 ounces is what they're kind of meant for. 2.5 is pushing it, but you can fish them. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it was a ton of fun. I guess we were doing some things. I don't want to say different than I've ever done before, but we were doing things different, and it was a ton of fun. We were all using live sonar. That's the first time that I had 3 guys in a boat, each using their own deucer, their own unit, and it was a ton of fun. And I think I told Kurt too, I want to go back out and I want to pay attention to fishing, because I was paying attention to everything on the screen, and I was watching your screen and I was looking at Kurt's screen because I'm a curious cat. I want to see what everything's looking like compared to whether it's the Garmin or Active Target or whatever. And it was my first Active Target. So yeah, I wish I would go out or could go out, and I guess I'll just have to pick up a rod or two and spend time doing it. I'm comfortable with a 6 foot rod, a 6 foot medium, but that's me. and maybe I need to learn to get a longer rod, because you get that action, and then you got that backbone, and like you said, the rod does the work for you.
Well, I think the big thing for me, it gets it away from the boat too.
Yeah, true. I agree with you there. And maybe that's part of, we fishing some deeper water, weren't we? Squirrel. Yeah, thanks, Mike. Appreciate that.
I was guessing that was directed towards you.
but that's just the way it goes, But yeah, I was impressed. I just didn't I didn't live with the rod like I should have when I had the chance, because I was so busy with the sonar. So there will come another day. We've got spring's on the way, by the way. We're gonna spring forward on March 9th already.
So Shane, Skippy wants to know if you'd be interested in building a 10'6" bottom bouncing rod.
First request for that. But yeah, wow. Yeah, I mean, I've built a lot of 8'6". But yeah, I'd be interested in it. I got some get a hold of me afterwards, and we can definitely talk. I mean, there's some blanks.
You can see the wheel spinning over here. Yeah, he's already thinking what blank he's going to use.
Yeah. Let me some orders. Hold on.
And that's, I mean, truly, that's what it gets down to is, not picking on any other brand, but JT or any of these other guys, they're not wrapping these rods when they're selling that handler. They're not doing any of these things that are building in-house. I mean, they're building customs, but they built a custom and they put them into production the same as you. So you can buy a custom rod that you design everything, colors, guide, blank, handles, everything, or you can get a custom production rod. And you can get a couple different colors and but that's what it is. Where Shane asked if you could build a 10'6". Yeah, that's where you get into the custom world.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big thing out there. I run all custom rods. Yeah, you run custom production rods. There is a difference.
And Kurt, if you don't mind, I wanted to just touch on that real quick. Like, when you say that, I want people to realize that even though my rods are production and they're not built in-house, these are still all the parts that are these are the parts I picked out. These are the guides I wanted. These are the blanks I wanted. These are the handles. These are everything I wanted. And they are built exactly to the dimensions and specifications that I want. So
100%. Yep.
Yeah. So it's just somebody else building it. You know what I mean?
I don't want to out it, but like the first one you got back, when you got the prototype back, they put the wrong guides on it. I remember you calling me and going, I go, did you get them? And you go, yeah, but it's got all the wrong guides on it. Like, so, I mean, you quality controlled it all the way down to, you sent them a list. This is what I want. And when they come in, you inspect every rod and it is a custom rod. I mean, it's just not, that specific rod wasn't built for your colors is what I was getting at.
Yeah, it's a production rod.
Yep.
But it's just, I want everybody to realize it's just not some Joe Blow in Florida picking this stuff out and slapping my name on it. That's not it at all. So,
I mean, your retail price on those rods, what's your retail price on those rods?
I'm at $199.99. And so, when you compare it to the JT Outdoor Snare Rod, which granted it's a different rod, but still for the same purpose, they're at $349.
Yeah.
The bouncing trolls are $250. So I feel like I'm right there, and I got great quality parts. I mean, these are not $20 Walmart specials. I'm right there with those guys.
And if there's any problems with them, they talk to the designer, the builder, everything when they talk to you.
Correct.
They're not getting some factory and some call center, literally. And you do truly take passion in your rods, even with your comment of, hey, like these are custom. I built every component. It's a lot nicer to have the guy, and people that are on here watching that don't know you, I guarantee after you get done the rod building process or buying process, you're going to know Josh. That's the type of guy he is, and you build some, really incredible rods in the bouncing rod world. It's a great rod. I told you I need 4 of them. I'm debating between 4 and 6, but like I talked to you about, Shane just brought up my comment as being in the front of the boat. You want an extra long rod. It's nice to keep away from the back of the boat, and we fish a lot of times in the tri-tune. It'd be nice to get the front rods even further away than the back rods so you can stagger your depth. Or stagger your lines, not necessarily your depth, stagger your lines. So when you're fishing with kids and everything else, you don't tangle up. And when I've got terrible boat control, I don't tangle you up. I found something. Remember, Jace, I found something this week. We're not bad. Me and Jason decided we're not bad fishermen. The fish are just really bad at biting our hook.
Right.
So, but you're going to take this from your custom bottom bouncing rods. And like I said, they're $199.99, under right under $200. You're going to be able to buy them right now. You've got your first store, correct? Am I outing anything that I shouldn't be outing at this point?
No. Yes. Earlier last week, I went and talked with Lindsay Coldemart here in Pierre, and they're actually going to give me a chance. And we're going to start out, and they're going to purchase 12 rods. And we're just kind of waiting for the transition between ice fishing stuff and open water. And so, yeah, I'm super, super excited about it. Super grateful for Lynn's and giving me a chance. And there's quite a few other stores out there I'm in talks with or will be talking with. And we'll just see where this goes.
So if you're watching tonight and you have a shop or know somebody that owns a shop, reach out to Josh, because I'm sure he would not hesitate to have a conversation about putting these rods into their shop.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. We got a comment from Troy. So he said he just tuned in, a 6'6", 1 to 1.5 bottom bouncing run braid, need 2 custom parts for anniversary gift for each of us. Can you trick them out with something personal? So he wants 2 custom bouncing rods.
Yes, I can definitely take care of you there.
Yeah, I mean that's the best part is you're still going to build the customs.
Yes,
like you're still going to build the one-offs. You're like I said, you're in the process of building me a paddlefish rod. You're still building these customs, and so you're not done doing that. But you can also buy the production bottom bouncing rods. And I mean, if you were to build that rod yourself and do it full custom, your price is probably going to be higher than $200.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's, and that's just it. I mean, that's the whole point of these is because I can't, and it's not just me. You ask any custom rod builder. I mean, you just can't, you got to have a certain price on them. Otherwise you just can't do them. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to produce that line, for just the average Joe that wants something nice, but doesn't want to break the bank either.
So when we go to Lynn's Dakota Mart, what are we going to see for rods there? What's the action, and what are we looking at?
So right now, Jason, we just got the one set of bottom bouncing rods. It's quite the process in doing this, and it takes a lot of time. But so right now, I just got the bottom bouncing rods, and I'm working with my guys in Florida, and we're actually working on some spinning rods, some more options. But, I didn't want to jump the gun and spend tens of thousands of dollars on rods without knowing how the first kickoff was going to go here. So I'm seeing a pretty good reaction so far. I'm excited. My spinning rods, the samples should be back in the next couple of weeks. Once they're back and I give approval, it can take up to 6 months to get them in hand, 6 to 8 months. So at the earliest, I'm looking at fall of actually, having another lineup. But, my goal is by the end of this year, is to have, 3 or 4 more variations of, whatever you want, spin jig rods or
Paddlefish rod. You're gonna have production paddlefish rods made, right?
I'm sure those will sell like hot.
Just flying off the shelf.
Yeah.
You know, I think we've all learned something tonight. I know you've sold 4 rods for sure this evening. I just got a text, so I've got to hook you up. So there's 4 that are going to fall. So that's awesome. You know,
and right now, when you ordered these, you got the options of the fishing crew colors or the into the outdoor colors, right? You got green and you got orange. And let's talk about that a little bit before we get it under our hour mark. Like when you showed me the rods, I said, dude, I'm all about these colors. Like this is my thing. I like the bright colors. But I even asked a question, but what if the guy isn't as flashy? And you had a very good response from Junior of why you like that bright color. Do you remember our conversation on this?
Refresh my conversation.
You said, I said, well, maybe somebody wants a black or a different color. And you said, Junior's comment to you was he can look in the back of the boat and see a rod going off with that color.
Yeah. It says, high vis, right? I mean, you can see it everywhere. And so that's part of it, on top of just catching your eye, looking sharp. It's really visibility and being able to see, a fish striking it. It just helps with it, right? Which
makes sense because I never really thought about it that way. And I just really, pink would be a hit. Yes, Holly, it would be.
We're going.
I was just going to say, I know there's pink out there. So.
If you do pink, that's the Nate Muntz series pink.
It's actually growing on me. I think I'm gonna do an open water rod like this. I have done.
There you go. I love it. All right, so there you go. You're going to sell Holly a couple of them.
Yeah, I mean, you can still get the custom colors. Like I said, if you want to get with Josh and build pink ones or purple ones or brown ones or whatever you want, Josh is there to build the custom ones for you.
I'm just going to turn around.
We're going to the thread zone.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
So you kind of name it.
Colors.
I mean, without outing anybody, how many people said, I want yellow, green, purple, and black? And you go, that ain't going to work. Because I can only imagine what kind of color combinations people throw at you to build a custom rod.
I've had a couple of times I've had to just tell them no, that's not going to work. So it has come up, and I have actually told them no.
Well, I would guess, if you're going to wrap green and then wrap orange and then wrap black and then wrap, that's got to be pretty hard to switch colors, right?
It's time consuming, but
yeah.
I got to be careful what I put my name on too. So,
oh, there you go. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you don't want something gaudy and ugly.
Holly said she doesn't want an ice fishing one. She needs shorties trolling rods, which I've fished with your shorties.
Oh yeah.
Are they 5-footers then? Okay.
So yeah, these are some shorties I built, and I think they're awesome. They, biggest one we caught 13.5 pounder in one. So I know they'll handle that fish.
Oh, we used those, didn't we?
No.
Yeah, we had two. Didn't we use 2 of those out the back of the boat? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark?
That's when you pulled the hook on those 3 fish, remember? I didn't want to out anybody, but
there isn't a doofus balloon right here.
But no, I mean, so in the end of the day, you dream it, Josh can build it. But the main thing tonight was kind of tell everybody about your production rods that are available. I personally fish with one. Now take my opinion for what you want, because I'm not a tournament fisherman. I'm the guy that is way better at weighing them in than catching them. Like I said, I'm not bad at catching them. The fish are bad at biting my hook. But there is something to be said that the rod is so much different. And even though, like, back to the wrapping rod, like, even though it's not I'm not catching maybe as many as other guys out there are, but I'm not tired like I was using another rod. When I put that rod down with the setup and the weight and everything, I'm not tired. And I didn't even have you build a high-end rod there. I mean, you built a very good rod.
Yep.
But I didn't spend $800,000-$900,000 on a rod, which I could have easily done in the rod building world, right? I mean, we could have easily put and I have zero complaints. I think Jason, you tried fishing with it that day and tried some of his rods. There is a difference when you grab that compared to a Fenwick or whatever. So,
no doubt. When you're ripping, you get tired in a quick hurry, right? So you need all the help you can get.
And not only your wrist gets tired, this takes all that strain off your wrist and locks it in for you. So, yeah, I mean, not only do you get your custom colors for what you want when you order a custom rod, you're also getting, with Josh, you're getting a very quality, well thought out rod. And Josh his wife will probably say he spends too much time on the water testing the rods rather than, building the rods, which I appreciate.
I always tell her I'm out there producing revenue. So
right on. There you go. Fantastic.
Good thing she's in a meeting tonight, not sitting around commenting on this, because I guarantee there'd be a comment coming in right now.
It's been good to have you. I'm glad you agreed to come on the show, because it was fun to have you on. I know we were teasing you this summer about coming on. I'm glad you took the time to do it. Excited about the rods at Lynn's Dakota Mart, so you can actually go get your hands on one. If you're in the Pier area, you can touch it, feel it. If people want to know more about a custom rod or the production rods, how do they find you? Where do they get a hold of you? Where do they buy and how?
Yeah, so right now, I pretty much just run off of Facebook, my Facebook page. I have my phone number on there, my email. You can message me. I do not have a website currently. Putting all my money towards the rods versus a website, but I will have a website soon. So yeah, just shoot me a text, call me, message me. I'll definitely be getting back to you guys. So
yeah, I think you're selling rods tonight.
I almost forgot about it, but we have to thank you, because last year we did a giveaway and we gave away a Josh Bible ice rod. So thank you for that. We appreciate that.
Well, and I'm going to work on getting you a couple rods, and not so much tonight, but on one of your guys' shows, I want you to give a couple away.
That would be fantastic.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be a lot of fun. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Before we go, I was just going to say, bring it up, because I think I looked earlier, we're at 12 of our 15. So,
yep. So here's the deal. When the show's all done, I'll put a link to our fantasy fishing group under the live show here tonight on Facebook. And I guess I can stick it on YouTube too. And Kurt, you can do it as well. And then you just need to message us for the password, and it's $100 in Venmo, and boom, you're done. And it's 10 weeks of fantasy fishing fun. It is a good time. It is. It's truly it's a blast. It's fun to do. You just can't forget to do your lineup. You can't, or you're not going to.
I saw on the fantasy fishing thing that you can enter a thing and they will text remind you to set your lineup.
That's true. You can actually set that up for yourself. Yeah, they started that, I think, last year. So there's no excuse not to set them up. The other thing I will do, I will wait. When the tournament's done, I'll go load my buckets up right away in case something happens, and at least I'm there. So check that out. The fantasy fishing is a ton of fun. And I want to just throw this up real quick. Look for Dan McGuire, March 5th at 7 o'clock. We're excited to have him on, and that's a couple of weeks away. But, it'll be into March already. That's crazy.
And there will be tournaments 1 month from then. So,
yeah. Wow. Well, we're a month away from our first open water tournament. Like Masters Walleye Circuit's got a March 21, 22 in Illinois. So it's coming. It's coming fast and furious. So, Josh, thank you very much. Great to have you on the show.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right, thank you.